Greetings, unsettled souls. Welcome to the Correct Views. Sam I. Beat again. She doing political commentary for the Media Speaks, and welcome aboard to the show, friends. If I learn how to lose my volume adjustment on. Welcome aboard to the show. I'm going to go straight into it today. I do want to invite you, though, before I do, hit subscribe, hit like, and hit share. Those three things help a small show more than anything else you could possibly do. So please do that. Kurt Nemo, prisonplanet.com. Brennan, the Fourth Amendment, that would be your right to protection from illegal searches and seizures. Fourth Amendment, we're allowed terrorists to attack America. Now, I'm absolutely certain that David Lake and I have predicted on multiple occasions this refugee crisis is going to be used as an excuse to go after our rights. Now, I predicted the Second Amendment. I think I might have been a little wrong on that, and I'll tell you why. Because the Second Amendment would have saved a lot of lives in Paris, and I'll tell you why. A friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, said you have police officers and security guards, whatever, who are already armed at concerts. That's true. I just went to Skinny Puppy. I got to interview them. Tune in Saturday, Media Speaks, 2 p.m. And I promise you'll get to hear about my Skinny Puppy interview. Saturday, 2 p.m., mediaspeaks.com. There is security around the perimeter. Now, if some crazy terrorist bastard decides to bring a gun out, it's very hard for security to shoot into the crowd, particularly the area that's called a mosh pit. If you don't know what that is, look it up. In clubs that don't have mosh pits, it's usually because they're dancing. So it's the same thing. It's very hard to shoot into the crowd of terrified people. Now, if you are already in the crowd itself, you can defend yourself a little more easily. If you are in the crowd, it's easier to shoot in than it is if you are not in the crowd to shoot in. You see why? Again, I don't think people in mosh pits need to have firearms. That's not what I'm saying. That's a recipe for disaster. What I'm saying is, had more people been armed in the club in Paris, then less people would have died. Do I think guns would have saved the lives of everyone there? Absolutely not. If some crazy person wants to come into a club or any place, anywhere, it could be an NRA meeting. If a lunatic wants to go into a club and start shooting the place up, people are going to die. But I'll say this. Less people are going to die if most of the club is armed than the number of people who will die if nobody in the club is armed except for security. And I just explained to you why that doesn't always work. So I thought it would be the Second Amendment that they came after. Well, that's not the case. It seems that it's the Fourth Amendment that they're coming after first, which is what D. Lake predicted. D. Lake for Prez, mediaspeaks.com. They're going to use this as a way to attack your Fourth Amendment first, because the Second Amendment already calls them out, as you can see here on FactCam. It's the Fourth Amendment that they're coming after, friends. Listen to this. CIA boss John Brennan said on Monday that violating the Fourth Amendment and eliminating the privacy of virtually every American will be required if the United States hopes to stop attacks by the Islamic State. Let me tell you what that equals. He's saying if you don't let us spy on everything you do in every way that we want, then we're going to be attacked by terrorists. You know what? There were people that told me that I shouldn't go and see Skinny Puppy last Saturday because if I did, I could be shot like the poor people at the Eagles of Death metal concert were in Paris. You know what? Don't capitulate. Go where you want to go and refuse to allow anyone to dictate how you're going to live your life. This bonehead is saying, Well, if you still want to do things, Sam, like go to the Skinny Puppy show, then you have to be able to let us search everything you do. You have to let us be able to know everywhere you go and what you do and who you talk to. And oh yeah, if we find out that you broke any laws, then we're also going to go ahead and arrest everybody for that too. But it's all to fight terrorism. What bonehead could possibly believe that? Leave comments. I've got a few viewers on here. I see. Leave comments. Who believes that? Who thinks that that's a good idea? How many of you know that it was the elimination of the right to freely speak and the elimination of the right to bear arms that led to Hitler doing what he did? Or do you think the Jews were armed to the teeth? But when the Nazis came knocking at the door, they just decided not to defend themselves. Well, that's not what happened. What happened was Hitler took the guns away and then came and took the people away. And guess what the people didn't have to defend themselves with? Guns. Guess what else they didn't have? A Fourth Amendment, which they're talking about here. The right to refusing search and seizure. The CIA director mentioned the Islamic State. I would anticipate that this is not the only operation ISIL has in the pipeline. Well, he's probably right on that. He said it's not going to content itself with violence inside the Syrian and Iraqi borders. So, come on. What he's saying is, do you realize that ISIS has now threatened Washington, D.C.? And we need to make sure that we can check everything you do and everything you watch and everyone you text, because we're going to protect you from ISIS because they're coming after Washington, D.C. What bonehead doesn't believe that they're already were coming after Washington, D.C.? It's the capital city of their sworn enemy. That'd be us. They were already planning to come here. What, are you out of your mind? This is ridiculous. And the reason it doesn't work is the reason that Ron Paul said it doesn't work. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. If you keep adding hay to the stack. For instance, you've got me, and shout out to Link. I think he might be one of my viewers tonight. You got Link and I texting about passing time. Blah, 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 that's all going to the NSA. Then Christelle and I have an argument. Now we're texting back and forth. That all goes to the NSA. Down the street, some guy decides he wants to buy illegal substance, fill in the blank. That goes to the NSA. Now the NSA has some idea who to alert to get the drug dealer busted or whatever. But they still don't have a terrorist. Meanwhile, Joe Terrorist is sending a message, coded, unless he's an idiot, God hopeful, unless he's an idiot, he's sending a message, but the NSA is tied up looking at Link talk to Sam about his band. They're tied up reading arguments. They're tied up worrying about who's smoking weed today. And they miss it anyway. Too much adding hay does not help you find the needle in the haystack. This is absolutely ridiculous. Second of all, the only way any sane person would be in favor of this is if the government was to say and prove, which would be impossible, we are not going to bother anybody whose information we bring in unless you are planning a terrorist attack or harm upon another person. I would still argue that that's too much of a blanket to give the government, and I would not be in favor of it. Repeat, not. However, having said it, you could very feasibly argue that that would make sense to a very large contingent of people. But what they're projecting here, what they're wanting here, is not something I think most Americans would be in favor of. And I'll tell you another thing most Americans wouldn't be in favor of. This is Paul Joseph Watson, Prison Planet. The Black Lives Matter supporters release a song, and I'm about to swear, but I can't help doing it. So if you have virgin ears, cover them. Fuck Paris, which is called a rap song. Now, friends, I'm not an enemy of rap. I'm really not. You're going to have to dig through the videos because I don't have it sectioned out yet. Go to passing time videos. Look up We Cannot Go On This Way. There's rap in it. Do me a favor. Type in Closet Monster, iCharts. It's a rap video that I did. I produced the music on it. I co-produced the song, helped do the video with our percussionist Gnosis, who is the other co-producer, co-writer, co-rapper. You get the point. You know what? While I'm not a huge fan of rap, I don't have a problem with it. I really hate hip hop because I hate vocal running. Any kind of vocal running is terrible. I'm sorry if you think it's not, you're wrong. It's terrible. I'd rather shoot myself in the face with a bazooka. But rap itself is an art form I like if done well. Well, this is an example of it not done well. After the hashtag quote fuck Paris was tweeted, the 129 people that were shot at a concert when they weren't bothering anybody, and many of them were probably African American, by the way, but no, that doesn't count. After the hashtag fuck Paris was tweeted by numerous Black Lives Matter supporters in the aftermath of Friday's massacre, a rapper has released a song by the same name to draw attention to France's involvement in the slave trade more than 100 years ago. Let me let you in on a few facts. Do you realize that the average white person in America, their family did not own slaves? Do you have any idea? And I'm not saying I'm in favor of it. I'm not. But do you have any idea how expensive slaves were? It was like the equivalent to the 1% today. I'm almost certain, and I'm sure I've people, students of history listening. Go ahead and leave me a comment if I'm wrong. But it was less than 10% of white America that ever owned a slave. 90% plus never owned slaves. Your family didn't. David Lake is one of the whitest people to whom you will ever meet. His prom date was black. Co-member of the Media Speaks. Guess what? You would look at him and you'd think his family used to own slaves. Well, I found out last Saturday, his family wasn't even in the country in time to have possibly owned slaves. Those two facts are somehow lost on the Black Lives Matter movement. This idiot is just trying to get attention. And let me tell you why. I would do the same thing in a different way. If I was trying to raise money for a charity, then I would do a song that talked about the Paris disaster. And I would rap it out, sing it out, whatever. And I would release it. But this idiot is trying to get a name for himself by proving how hard he is. So he's going to put down and humiliate the 129 people who died in Paris innocently. And he's going to release a rap song laughing at them because somebody in their family may have sold slaves. Do you realize that's like saying many people in France at that time were blacksmiths? And I bet you your family has ties to blacksmiths. No. It was one profession. There were cobblers. There were, I don't know, horse salesmen, whatever. There's a real good chance that almost all of the 129 people whose died ancestors had no ties to the slave trade at all in France. It was probably a very small number of the innocent 129 people who died's family who ever did the abysmal crime, which is what I think it is, of slave trading. But, never let the facts get in the way of a good story. The hip-hop artist who goes by the name Knowledge, he must have thought it was clever, released the track on YouTube yesterday, in which he raps, "The way I'm feeling right now, I feel like fuck Paris." The rapper explained the reasoning behind the song, commenting, "I say this because of the major participation in the slave trade France." The typos here, by the way, he wrote. I'm not drunk. Because of the major participation of the slave trade France was involved in, period. Hate to see the loss of life, yet my ancestors' souls are still crying there in pain. I am too, T.O. dot dot, not three dots. Capital F. France turned 4 times as many slaves as Americans and refused further brutality if it's even more fathomable. All right. Well, we've already established that less than 10% of Americans ever owned slaves. And France was selling all of these slaves. It was a very small percentage of French who were ever tied up in this. Most of the people's ancestors who died at that place seeing the Eagles of Death medal, they died having no ancestral ties to slavery at all. And it's mathematically provable for the reason that I just gave you. You can look it all up. That's why I told you to hit subscribe. Quite how young Parisian concert goers and people having a drink with their friends in a bar today are responsible for France's foreign policy and involvement in the slave trade over 100 years ago was not made clear by the great knowledge. It's also worth noting that slavery within Africa has existed for centuries and continues to this day. And that can't be overlooked. So let's focus on what he just wrote there for a second. And there's a link right there. You can see on FactCam to prove it. How do you think the very small number of French who did own slaves ended up with those slaves? Other blacks sold them into slavery to the French. Slavery is not a sin of color. Slavery is a sin of the soul. There's something fundamentally wrong with you that does not have to do with your color if you can't see that. The hashtag fuck Paris hashtag began. If you don't like my language on this show, I'm reporting facts to you. You can thank knowledge for this. The hashtag began to pick up steam yesterday when it was tweeted by a number of Black Lives Matter supporters who were upset that the Paris massacre had taken media attention away from the protest at the University of Missouri. Never mind the protest at the University of Missouri refused to allow anyone to speak freely, such as the brown shirts did to blacks many years ago. This is ridiculous. I mean, he writes, Paul Joseph Watson, that the last time I'm going to say it, Fuck Paris song illustrates how seriously unhinged some supporters of Black Lives Matter really are, as well as debunking claims that the hashtag was driven only by irate anti-BLM tweeters who were making a big deal of nothing. The point is, they have absolutely overlooked the entire cause of slavery and instead dwindled it down to a matter of ISIS. And what is ISIS? It has nothing to do with their plight. Does knowledge realize that if the average ISIS member had just 10 seconds, he would shoot him dead? Do Black Lives Matter realize, do the Black Lives Matter movement realize? Does they? How do you say that when it's a hashtag? I do my best. Do they realize that we have a common enemy, that ISIS would shoot them as quickly as they would shoot anyone else? Or is that somehow lost here? I think it's lost here. Friends, SHTFplan.com, Germany sells out of pepper spray as frightened Germans buy protection against refugees. Now, the German people are particularly sensitive to this, and I'll tell you why. They've been through this many times. Everyone always points to Hitler and the way that, of course, he took over Germany and the way that he brought in an evil. What he did was he said there's a lot of crime in Germany, so we're going to take the guns away. He then came and took the people away that he didn't care about anymore. It's happening all over again, and people are somehow missing it because the ideology is slightly different, but the fascism is the same. The removal of your rights to speak freely is the same. Well, now you've got in World War II, you had the German people who couldn't defend themselves with hardly anything. Anything. Now you've got frightened women buying pepper spray. Why? Well, we covered it before. Look up correct views. Germany hides rape. It'll come right up. The German media has been hiding the amount of rapes that have happened since the refugee influx. But you know if it's happening. You know if your sister, your mom, your aunt, your cousin, your whoever was raped. It's getting out with this refugee crisis. While 99% of them may in fact be legitimate refugees, that 1%, when you're talking about that many thousands, is a lot of people. Okay? And it's getting out that a lot of people are getting raped by a lot of people. What you've got now are the average terrified German citizen, male or female, trying to defend themselves with nothing more than pepper spray, as their country allows unvetted refugees to stay in whatever city the government says is worthy of them staying in. Things are getting frightening in Europe, that's to say the least. Max Slavo, though a wildly arranged deal to take in a flood of refugee migrants from Syria, the Europeans are taking a bit of blowback. He wrote blight, it's a typing error. Merely from being accomplices in the chain reaction of wars ranging from Iraq to Libya, Syria, and beyond. Well, listen to this. This is zero hedge. Despite occasional videos of angry Germans protesting as what has become the biggest foreign invasion of Europe since World War II, that is, these refugees being allowed in, unvetted, the German popular response to the wave of migrants, which is now expected to top 1 million, what's 1% of 1 million? You're doomed. In 2015 has been relatively calm. Fear and anger, however, are building beneath the otherwise calm surface. What am I saying there? 1% of 1 million are coming in to bomb you. That's what I'm saying. I don't think the vast majority of them are going to hurt you. But you can't vet. That is, you can't screen everyone. Ones you miss are going to get you. They're letting them in droves. According to a report by Focus, following a 600% surge in sales over the past 2 months, Germany has run out of pepper spray, and the irritating substance can now only be purchased after weeks of waiting. Focus says that according to pepper spray manufacturers, frightened Germans have bought all of the available inventory. Why might that be? Might it be that Germany and Sweden are seeing rapes in numbers that they have not seen since World War II? Call it a hunch. I think that might just be it. Friends, I've got 3 more stories to get to, so do not go away. Do not leave. The show is only half over. I just wanted to say real quick, stickerjunkie.com. See how cool these stickers are? See how cool that sticker is? That one, they're all made by Sticker Junkie. You do is you take, like I did, take your logo, like I did our band's logo, take it to David Lake, stickerjunkie.com, promo code correct views or the correct views. Promo code, either one of those, and you're going to get a huge savings on your stickers. And your stickers are going to look amazing, just like ours do. It's who Passing Time uses. It's, we just got signed to Night Stalker Records. Guess what? Night Stalker Records says they look amazing. We're using Sticker Junkie. Go there. You'll be glad that you did. Friends, Wolf Street, Don Jones, I think that's how you pronounce it, Quijones. If I'm wrong, then I'm sorry. Who is the government's strongest ally in their war on cash? What is the war on cash? How many of you have never heard that phrase before? I need to catch you up before I begin. Parts of Europe are trying to make it impossible to use cash for common transactions. Parts of Europe have capitulated to the spying apparatus that has been set up through the NSA. We know this from Snowden. It's fact. It's public record. It's not an opinion. You want to see that here? where you can't buy anything unless it's on a card. Everything has to be seen. Every transaction has to be known. Your Fourth Amendment, like I said earlier, has to be destroyed. You don't have a problem with that? I do. Because I believe, like I was always read, and I was always shown, and I was always taught that you were born with God given rights. Remember that? That you were born with them. If you don't believe in God, it doesn't change the fact that the Constitution says that you were in fact born with them, these rights. So I do believe I was born with the right to not have illegal searches and seizures happening from my government for any reason. Well, listen to this. The war on cash is advancing on all fronts. One region that has hogged the headlines with its war against physical currency is Scandinavia. Sweden became the first country to enlist its own citizens as largely willing guinea pigs in a dystopian economic experiment. It says negative interest rates in a cashless society. That means not only do you put your money in a bank and you have to in order to buy anything, but you have to pay the bank for the right to do it. The bank does not pay you. That's what a negative interest rate is. Does that sound good to you? No, it doesn't sound good to me either. How do you get out of it? Look up How to Live Without Banks. It's on my site and it's free. As Credit Suisse, that's SUSISSE, reports, no matter where you go or what you want to purchase, you will find small, ambiguous signs saying, Vilahan Etua din Jan Kanta, which is we don't accept cash. Viahana Tira El Contantor, maybe? I don't know. Whether it's for mulled wine at the Christmas market, as I destroy the Scandinavian language, beer at a bar, or even the smallest charge, it is settled digitally. Even the homeless vendors on the street, newspapers that come in situation, Stockholm carry mobile card readers. A similar situation is happening in Denmark, where 40% of the paying demographic use mobile pay. Why are the banks pushing this? Because if the banks can control the money, where it goes, how it goes, when it goes, then they can charge you for the right to have your money in it. But if you don't have your money in it, you can't buy or sell anything. Also, they can give this information to any government that wants it, and they can spy on you for any reason that you want. And you might say, well, I'm not doing anything illegal. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're a Joe politician, and you like to watch porn. You love to watch porn. If anybody that wants to watch anything, if you can get the information of what they watch, then maybe the political enemy says, you know what, I want you to drop out of the race. See, if you don't, I'm going to let them know you like to watch gangbang or whatever porn it is you like. And now you've destroyed someone's political career. There's a reason. You can silence your enemies with this kind of information. What if some of it is mildly illegal? What if a politician that is a good man, a moral man, he smokes weed? He doesn't have a Fourth Amendment. You get his information. You're part of the government. You're allowed to get it. Now you use it against him so that your person wins the election. Can you see why the Fourth Amendment matters? Meanwhile, the banks are making a fortune off of all of this because they're the ones who get to decide what the cost of doing business is. Do you see where this goes? Or am I just talking to nobody? Am I rambling into a camera for no reason for 28 minutes? Two stories to get to. What is racist these days? This is on InfoWars. Paul Joseph Watson. I hate the new InfoWars layout, by the way. I still go to Prison Planet, but you're going to find less and less InfoWars stories on here because I hate the new layout of their site. Alex Jones, I love you. This is a terrible layout. Go back to the old one. More things that are now racist. What are they? Thor, heavy metal music, and Viking cosplay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and break this down for you a little bit because these are all things that I am involved in. And I think it's interesting because one of the things they're doing is confusing history fact with racism fiction. By that I mean, if you're a fan of Viking lore, for instance, like I'm a Christian, I don't believe in any of the Viking teachings at all. Many people do that are in the death metal crowd. I get it, it's fine. Believe whatever you want. I don't believe any of it. But I like reading about it. I like knowing who Varg Vikernes is. I love all of that. I don't love it because they happen to be white. They're saying, well, you like Vikings, you like Viking lore. There weren't many black Vikings, so you hate black people. I have no idea how you twist something around in such a way to end up with such a ridiculous conclusion, but that's one of the things they're doing here. If you thought you could get through a whole day without joyless social justice warriors declaring another set of random things to be racist, then think again. According to a new study from Leeds Beckett University, there is the link on FactCam. Thor, we all know he's real, heavy metal music, and dressing up as a Viking are all racist because they reinforce oppression towards ethnic minorities. You didn't just, you didn't like to read about Vikings and sword play and drinking mead out of a horn. No. You did it specifically because they weren't white. That's what your interest was. That's what you're trying to say. This doesn't make any sense. I'm a fan of the band Tyr, Tyr. They're like these big Viking heavy metal guys. It never once crossed my mind what race they were. It's almost too dumb to report on. And the next story is even dumber, so don't go away. It says, despite the fact that progressives have spent the last month lecturing everyone about how dressing up in ethnic costumes for Halloween represents a hateful act of cultural appropriation, we now learn that dressing up as stereotypically white culture figures are also racially insensitive. So, what's he saying? Because he got overly wordy, he's saying that if I, as a white person, dress up like, say, a Mexican bandito, even though I have Mexican in me, that's racist. But if I dress up like a Viking, since Vikings are historically white, then I am still racist. What, am I supposed to stay home on Halloween and slit my freaking wrists? This doesn't make any sense. According to Professor Carl Spracklin, folk metal's obsession with warriors and cultural purity displayed through tales of Vikings and dressing up as Vikings on stage, which are most heavy metal bands in the eastern part of Europe, reduces belonging and identity in a multicultural, cosmopolitan society exclusive myths. It is showing white men how to be white men and showing women and ethnic minorities their place in European society. So, because they happen to be white, they therefore should never be talked about. This is what PJ Dub writes. To recap, dressing up as an ethnic stereotype is equal to being racist. Dressing up as a white stereotype is in fact equal to being racist. Actor Chris Hemsworth may now be out of a job given that all portrayals of Thor have been officially designated racist. Listen to this. It says, the bands in the research are all trying to identify with some reputed folk culture that existed before modern times. A culture of pure white people, monocultural and monoracial. In some bands, there is an explicitly racist purpose for their adoption of Thor's hammer, Viking imagery, and heroic pagan myths. Let me tell you something. If black people had happened to have been born in these Scandinavian countries where this kind of heavy metal is praised, they would have also been Vikings and pagans, because the culture did not happen because it was white. The culture happened because there were periods in time where people worshipped many different gods. If the Vikings had been born in certain black areas, they may have been voodoo. instead of pink. Voodoo did not happen because black people were black. Voodoo happened because that is the religion that was popular where they were, regardless of their skin color. It is that simple to understand, people. It really is that freaking simple. Folk metal is also a toxic expression of white privilege, of which doesn't exist. I'm white, trust me, it doesn't. Folk metal serves as a comfortable leisure space for those who have lost power in recent decades. So you're only listening to white folk metal because you wish that you didn't have a black neighbor. For every reason I just gave you and many more, friends, that's ridiculous. So what won the dumbdee of the day? Is there anything dumber? Yes! The dumbdee of the day, Kit Daniels, reporting. Movie critic complains that Charlie Brown lacks non-white love interest. That's right. The people that are making Charlie Brown are racist. And they're racist because Charlie Brown doesn't have black love interest. Variety de Brunch thinks the Peanuts movie should have pushed a sexual agenda. All right, let me tell you a story. And no matter how this story ends, I end up racist. But I'm going to tell the story anyway. I, as a white person, always wondered what it would be like to be with someone who was black. And I had this conversation with a black girl that I used to know. She had said that she had an ex who was white, but prior to that, she had always wondered what it would be like to be with a white guy. The fact that she knew what it was like to be with a white guy, but I did not know what it was like to be with a black girl, was a bit of a turn on to her. We talked about that for a second, and I spent the next 3 or 4 minutes of my day making out with this beautiful black girl. We didn't do any more. If you were waiting for the happy ending, it didn't happen. She wasn't like that. But it was kinky. It was fun. It was hot. I didn't have a girlfriend at the time. She didn't have a boyfriend at the time. No harm, no foul. Home run. I loved it. It was fun. You know what? It was exactly like making out with a white girl, by the way. Very passionate. But again, passion, it doesn't have a color. Did I like it? Absolutely loved it. But we were told that if you only date white people, you are racist. However, we're also told that if you have a curiosity towards another color because of their color, then you're also racist. So in that aspect, I guess I was racist. I thought it couldn't get any stupider than that, but it did. A movie critic is upset that the upcoming Charlie Brown movie, because the titular character doesn't have a non-white love interest, Variety's Peter DeBrugge said the cartoon needs a little modernization in terms of interracial romance between 8-year-olds. While Franklin remains Charlie Brown's only brown friend, a non-white love interest would have been as progressive as Solskjaer's, that's who originally wrote it, Solskjaer's tomboyish depiction of Peppermint Patty was back in the day. He said about the Peanuts movie. Peppermint Patty is funny with Charlie Brown on a cartoon level, not because she is white, but because she is a tomboy. It's another instance where color doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, the reason they didn't make Charlie Brown's girlfriend black was because Charlie Brown's girlfriend, if you can use that word, has always been Peppermint Patty. And none of that had anything to do with race. If they hadn't, he's got one brown friend. That's the word he used, not me. No matter what, Schultz gave him an African-American friend, he's still wrong. He's dead and he's still wrong. No matter what you do, at the end of the day, someone says you're racist. He writes, in other words, DeBrugge believes, D-E-B-R-U-G-E, believes the movie producers should have used a cartoon character from the mid-1940s to push a Brave New World-style sexual agenda on little kids. Good grief, leave Charlie Brown and his friends alone, a commentator at Newsbusters wrote. He's too young for a love interest. Besides, can you imagine the howling from the social justice warriors if Charlie Brown's black girlfriend was to pull the football away while he tried to kick it? They'd go further bat crap crazy than they already are. They'd say, oh, that's stereotypical of a black person messing with a white person. And they'd still condemn him. That's absolutely true. And that is why De Brugge wins the dumbdee of the day. Friends, you are listening to The Correct Views. Sam I.B. Gangi during political commentary for the Media Speaks. Do me a favor. You can donate to this show at correctviews@hotmail.com. Every penny that you give to me goes towards a better show. I need to get another HDF camera. We're running 3-point lighting in the studio. We got Fact Cam. We got all the crap that hooks Fact Cam up. It all costs money, and it's paid for by you and donating to me at thecorrectviews@hotmail.com. Good night, friends. God bless. And whatever you do, hit share, hit subscribe.